whole process people's democracy is described as a people-oriented and results-oriented approach for ensuring national rejuvenation and common prosperity. It combines both direct and indirect elections with complementary forms of systemic discipline to ensure cleaner and more effective governance. In fact, it combines a wide range of instrumental practices like the rule of law, political consultations, increasingly open digital governance, and an increasingly robust system for public commentary and feedback. Altogether, these efforts and others are combined to achieve the intrinsic values of democracy, including bringing development and opportunities for growth for the masses while strengthening access to quality healthcare, education, and security. Whole process democracy is another term for all the various mechanisms in place that make good governance possible nationally, the sort of governance that ensures sovereignty and security, that puts people first, that advances the rule of law, that raises people out of poverty, and so on. This is whole process democracy. In the West, in the US especially, there's this idea of democracy and rule of law that firstly always privileges private property rights. It doesn't seem to matter that bourgeois liberal democracy is now polarized and ineffectual, that it seems locked in a cycle of conflict and declines. Now, despite these outcomes, Western democracy is mistaken as an intrinsic manifestation of social justice. In China, it's the opposite. Whole process democracy has helped usher the Chinese people into a new era, one that has encountered changes unseen in a century, as China has now emerged as a strong and wealthy nation capable of safeguarding its sovereignty from those who seek to imperil it, but also capable of serving the greater global good through win-win development schemes, especially in long-neglected areas of the global south, while promoting democracy internationally through true multilateralism. Contemporary Chinese political discourse frequently mentions changes unseen in a century. Firstly, for some, the phrase represents a historical turning point, one in which the historical experience known as China's Century of Humiliation from 1840 to 1949, when China was vulnerable to, dominated by, and even existentially threatened by foreign powers, has now been inverted with China's reemergence as a secure, sovereign nation and a growing global power. China now has the world's second largest economy. These changes alone are monumental. Secondly, the phrase is also associated with last year's centennial of the CPC's founding and achieving the first centennial national development goal of establishing a Xiaokong society, a moderately prosperous society, as a threshold event signaling China's raising hundreds of millions out of poverty, eliminating extreme poverty altogether, and creating a population of more than 400 million middle-income earners who, along with the rest of China's population, which accounts for nearly 20% of the world's total, enjoy unprecedented levels of sovereignty and security and growing opportunities for realizing common prosperity via the rubric of socialism with Chinese characteristics. Thirdly, the phrase also links to growing and often intersecting challenges that pose both new dangers and opportunities for China and the world. These include problems associated with climate change and certainty of more to come, including growing international tensions and conflict amid geostrategic and economic realignment. This phrase coincides with another term, new era, both expressions reflecting a historicist worldview. This kind of worldview is common to Marxists and especially Chinese Marxists. In other words, we must understand ourselves as moving through time, encountering contradictions and changes and the possibility of progress as well as decline. We have already entered a new era of China's diplomacy as a major country. We are already seeing a new multilateralism. We're already seeing new global resistance to the U.S. anti-China containment policies, even from some leading U.S. allies. At the same time, we're seeing China renewing old friendships and making new ones. We're seeing China taking the lead on fighting climate change, of making up for shortfalls facing 2030 development goals with the Global Development Initiative, pushing for global security, trade, and development with multilateral efforts associated with the Global Security Initiative, the Belt Road Initiative, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and others.